Get social with us. Follow us on Instagram at Goodtaste TV.
Hi everyone, welcome to Good Taste for the Soul. I'm Tangi Patton. This site probably looks familiar to you. We're in Kerrville on the beautiful Guadalupe River, a site many of us have watched, sadly, for the last couple of weeks. It's been a rough time in the Texas Hill Country. But today I want to focus on hope, inspiration, and healing. And we have a wonderful guest to do just that. Jonathan McComb lost his family in a flood on a holiday weekend. And he has spent the last 10 years helping others who've gone through a tragedy like this. So we're going to talk to him today, and hopefully his words of inspiration will help you, whether you're affected dramatically by this flooding or you've had other tragedies or dealing with other horrible disappointments in your own life. So thank you so much, Jonathan.
Thank you, Tangi,
for being with us today. The details are eerily similar.
They are.
As for what happened here on July 4th compared to what happened to you Memorial Day weekend 10 years ago.
Yep.
A lot of people will be familiar with your story, but some won't. So take us back to that holiday weekend.
So yeah, we were in Wimberley, Texas, and it was Memorial Weekend, and so we were up there with some friends of ours that invited us, and it was our first weekend ever to Wimberley, first time ever, and so we were excited. I'd heard about their place for many years, and so we decided let's do that. And so we went up there, and it was a great day. You know, sunshine, blue skies, you know, barbecuing. Everybody's in the river. Everybody's having a good time. And then it just went from good to bad very quickly that day. And the river came up instantaneously almost.
At night.
At night.
In the dark.
In the dark. And so Randy and I, a friend of mine, Randy Charba, we were downstairs, everybody else is upstairs and going to bed, and we kind of heard this noise and wondered, you know, what is that noise? We've never heard this noise before, didn't know what it was, and we kept looking at the riverbank, and you know, we could tell the flow had picked up a little bit, but nothing out of the banks, nothing out of the ordinary, and so didn't think anything of it, and then all of a sudden just water started coming and around the house, around everything, and we had moved some things up onto a ledge because they were used to floods there.
Yeah.
And they said, let's put some stuff up just in case, and so we did that.
You had two families in the house together, right?
There was three families, so
Three
it was
families.
myself, Laura, Andrew, and Leighton, and then Randy and Michelle Charba with their son Will, and then her parents, Ralph and Sue Carey. So yeah, and so we went inside, and I said, hey, you know, everybody out, we got to go. And by the time we got everybody up to get out of the house, the water was, you know, all the way around us, you know.
You were
deep.
trapped in the house.
We were trapped in the house, and so we all had everybody in the living room, and then, you know, all of a sudden we felt this big thud on the back side of the house, and it was what I anticipate, or what I would think of is a cypress tree that had broken loose and knocked the whole house off the foundation, and so we're now floating, and then we hit the Ranch Road 12 bridge and knocked off the second story, and that's when walls started coming apart, and
The house fell apart.
People started slowly being removed by the water, and so that's when it all went very bad.
And you and your family were totally separated. You were separated from everyone at that point.
Right. And so at that point, we were all together still in the living room, and then we hit a tree, and Randy and Michelle and Will were on one side, and I never saw them again. And then it was myself and Laura, Andrew, and Leighton, and then Ralph Carey. Sue was knocked off at the Ranch Road 12 bridge, and so you know, I heard her in the background asking for help, and so I went through the debris pile floating down the river and held her hand, and then all the debris kind of built up in between us, and I lost grip of her, and then and so I went back to our little pile, and we were all sitting on a single mattress kind of going down this debris pile down the river, and then we lost Ralph, and I heard him calling for help, and so I went across and grabbed him, pulled him back in, and then lost him again. So then it was just myself and Laura, Andrew, and Leighton, and then we hit some big whitewater rapids, and and kind of came to and realized that Andrew wasn't with us, my son, and 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 I can hear from the back of the debris pile, him yelling, "Daddy, help me! Daddy, help me!" And so I jumped back to him, grabbed a hold of him, and then we hit some more whitewater, and he was on top of me. I was in the water. We lost grip of each other, and that was the last I saw of anybody going down the river. And so
You ended up in the water, quickly moving downstream alone.
alone, yeah. At one point, out of nowhere, our dog Maggie showed up next to me.
Whoa.
That I had thrown off the debris pile because I didn't want her taking up space for humans and for my family. But she was right next to me, and then I didn't see her again. And so until many days later, she survived.
Your dog survived?
And so she survived, and so yeah, and then it was 11 miles downriver that I was able to make my way out after a pretty intense ride.
You were underwater a good amount of time, and at that point, you probably had a pretty good realization of you've lost your family.
Oh yeah, I knew once what I was going through that there's no way anybody could survive it, and so I was obviously searching and looking in the water, and the only time I could even see anything, you couldn't hear anything for sure, is whenever lightning would strike, and that would light everything up. But yeah, and so as going through the river, you don't know whether you're upside down or right side up or sideways, and so I remember one time coming up thinking I needed a breath, and I took a breath, and it was just all water. And so, anyways,
Were you trying at that point, or had you given up?
No, I was still trying to survive, and then the second time I went back down, I gave up knowing that there's no way that I figured that my family didn't make it, and so I did give up underwater, and I said, take me home to heaven with my family, and I want to be with them, and quit trying, quit everything, and hit my head pretty hard on a rock, and then the flashing lights came back to me, and I just said, okay, God, if you want me to get out and tell this story, tell your story, I need some help. And that's when I came back up, and I was able to kind of go into survival mode. I never looked at step 10. I looked at step 1, and then 1 was, to stay above water, and then 2 was to do something different. 3 was to do something different. I always went from one step to another and not jumped anything. And so I held on to a log, and then found a bigger log, one that had a fork in it, so I could be in the middle for protection. And I knew that I was going to survive and try and search for them, that I needed to get out. And so I let go of the tree that I was holding on to, and saw some stationary trees on the side of the river, and so I tried to grab that, and first one I grabbed, it just snapped off and broke, and tried another one, and it held on, and I didn't let go, and it held.
And you finally made your way. I thought it was kind of interesting in reading the account. You had to climb up, 30 feet?
At
cliff,
least,
kind of?
yeah, yes, ma'am. So I was kind of on a point, and so I couldn't go to the right or the left, and didn't know how bad I was injured at the time, and just kind of adrenaline, and kept going, but the only way to get out was straight up a cliff.
To go up.
And so I started climbing up, and probably 15 or 20 feet, and fell back down to the bottom, and then I moved over a little bit and tried that again, and fell back in the water, and then I prayed again. I prayed, and I said, God, if we're going to tell this story, tell your story, then I need help getting out. And so I tried it again for the third time, and with some other challenges, but I made it up, and kept going.
Well, there were so many little things along the way. You did get up. You managed to be where there was a house. A ton of dogs were being kenneled in the garage, coincidentally or not.
Right.
And the noise from the dogs when they heard you woke up the people in the home.
Correct. And they didn't know it was flooding
Yeah.
because they had no power. And they had been out at a dog training all day long, and so they were tired. And I knocked on the door, and they're way, way, way above on this bluff. And they said, "There's no way that you could have done that." And I said, "I did." And you're looking back and you're thinking, the branch that I held on to that was just a small root ball, to help me get over that edge. I think, that was God's hand there. I got you. Grab a hold of it. Let's go. And so, you go back and try and come up with scenarios and come up with different things. And I just think that I know that God was with me the whole time to get me to where I am today to be able to help people.
Well, and you had quite a recovery. You had a lot of injuries, broken ribs. They had to put a tube in your...
I had, broken sternum and
Yeah.
broken ribs and punctured lung and some busted legs
lot.
and pretty beat up.
I wanted to ask you, a lot of people talk about that have gone through horrible situations or have lost a loved one, having dreams, having maybe messages. Cardinals were talked about a lot.
Sure.
I read somewhere you had a dream
I did.
about your family.
I did. And so Leighton, my daughter, was never located, even to this day. And so I know through my faith that I don't need a physical body to know where she is. I know that she's in heaven, and and I'm okay with that because I know where she is. Would it be nice to have closure? Sure, that'd be great. But I know that that's not the end all be all to this. And so, but yeah. So one night I was at home asleep, and I was telling a friend earlier today on the way in that, when the kids are around, they're screaming, they're yelling, they're running up and down the halls and the house, that you just want some quiet, some silence. Well, then you go home and that's all you have. It's an eerie feeling. And so, but I was at home that night asleep, and I had this dream, and to this day, I consider it a gift from God that I was talking to Leighton, and I could see Laura and Andrew in the background in this beautiful field of, green grass, tall green grass, just like you see in the movies. And I kept on saying, Leighton, where are you? Where are you? We're looking for you. Where are you? And this is months after. And so she said, well, I'm okay. I'm okay. I've been picked up by a man in the river. And I said, well, what man in the river picked you up? And she said, it was Jesus. Jesus picked me up. We're okay. And that was a big moment for me. I woke up immediately hoping to see her running down the hallway, hoping that all of this was just a nightmare. And it is. But I tried to go back to sleep immediately to finish the story, to finish the dream. And I've yet to have part two. But part two is when I get to
There will be.
hold her again.
There will be. You work a lot. You've been so generous and really went through some hoops, I think, to meet us out here today. And it's at a time you spent the last week on this river with the search and rescue teams and recovery teams. And you've decided to dedicate your life to helping people who go through tragedies. When it's river flooding, you're there. What do you tell people, whether it's what so many are dealing with here from the flooding, or just another crisis? How?
You tell people, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And if I could take the pain away from you and put it on me, I would, in a heartbeat. And because I know exactly what they're going through. I know the emptiness they're feeling. I know the loneliness they're feeling. I know the pause in their life that they're feeling of, everybody around them is still moving and you feel like you're stationary. And it's horrible. And I'm the first one to say that I had my dark times and times where, I was thinking the unthinkable, of
You did, didn't you?
I did. And it took me a while to admit that because I didn't want my mom to know.
Oh.
And so, but I think that's part of the story is that, after what I've been through, it wasn't just an immediate, faithful. I've always been faithful. I, became a Christian when I was in middle school and asked Jesus in my heart as Lord and Savior. And I was mad at God. I mean, threw rocks and cussed at the river, and I was mad. But you can't stay mad at God. This isn't his fault, but he's here to make it a redeeming story out of it, and for him to be glorified and for others to see that. And so I knew that, the things that I was thinking weren't right, and I wasn't in the right frame of mind anyways. And so at that moment I said, God didn't let me survive to do what I'm thinking right now. And so I said, I need to do better than that. And so that's kind of was my epiphany, to say, I need to do something better. And so that's what I did. I'm not saying that it was all immediately smiles and joys and everything else. There's still, ups and downs and peaks and valleys. But I know that, having God on your side and doing it with God is a lot easier than doing it without him. And so the pain is still there, the hurt is still there, but you can kind of rely on him to talk to bounce ideas off, to talk to, and you get he talks back.
Your proof. And I would imagine you hear from people along the way. It's been 10 years since you started this journey, that there are good times ahead. There
will be. I mean, and right now you tell yourself there's no way that's going to happen. I told myself that, there's no way that I'm going to, find somebody to love me again. There's no way that I'm going to have children again. There's no way that I'm going to have a smile on again. And God's a funny God, because he blessed me with 2 beautiful women and 3 beautiful children. And he did that. And it's, when I speak at different places, I remind them of the poem, Footprints in the Sand. When there was 2 sets of footprints, you were there, but when there's 1 set of footprints, where'd you go? And it was then when I was carrying you. And there's been a lot of single path footprints for me, in the past. But I know that he kept me around to help those that are hurting, and it's been a rough journey, but I'm here to help.
Beautiful wife and 5-year-old.
That's right, little Scarlett. Yep.
Daughter.
Yep.
Well, your story is incredibly inspiring. I don't want to leave without talking about the others like you that are out here.
Sure.
It's an amazing effort.
It is.
And a lot of people sacrifice a lot to be here, don't they?
It's amazing. And, to see the spirit of Texas is what it is. I mean, because everybody came together in a matter of hours, and we were all here for each other. I mean, there's no bickering or fighting. It's, hey, can I help you? Can I help you? And everybody can be a part of the search and rescue effort. Might not be able to get in the boat and jump in the river and do that because you're not trained, but you go down the streets of, Center Point and Comfort and Hunt and Ingram and all these places. There's people that are serving free barbecue. I mean, there's people that are serving food. I mean, giving you sunscreen. I mean, giving you whatever you can to help, because that's their part of helping. And it's great to stop and meet those people and thank them. But then there's also thousands of people that have come from around the state, around the United States, around outside the United States to come in and work together, because that's what humanity should be about, is helping each other through times of distress. And this is what it is. And it's, I talked to a group of girls last night from Mystic, and I told them, there's so many bad images on TV to not look at that. And I told them, I said, what I see there is there's angels all around. There's beauty in the efforts. There's love and compassion and support for your fellow humans. And that's what it should be about. And to remember those that were lost, and be thankful for those that are willing to step up and help.
I love that analogy. You're right. There are angels all around that we've lost.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I thank you for doing this. I know, like I say, you don't say no to anyone, and it's time consuming, and you go back through some really tough times in your life.
It is, and going back to even, what I went through was, and I made a promise, to God that I would tell the story, wherever, whenever it needed, and and so I've tried to honor that, to honor him and help those that, and it might not be a flood, it might be somebody that's, you know, in a different state, not necessarily in the United States, but just a different place in their life that wasn't in a flood. Maybe it was a car wreck, maybe it was anything possible, and they're thinking the worst. They're thinking what I thought, and I want to tell them that, you know, there's hope, and not to give up on your faith. And if you don't have it, try and find it.
Yeah.
You know, rely on that, your family and friends, and you can get through it.
It's better than going through it alone.
Yes,
Right?
yes, for sure.
It's the
For sure.
statement, none of us gets out of this life alive,
Right,
and none of us get through this life unscathed.
right, right, right. Pack light and love heavy, and you know, and leave it all here.
Yeah. Well said. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you very
yes,
much.
for sure. Yes, absolutely.
It is kind of sobering as we sit here and watch these choppers going back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been to war. I've been blessed to not do that, and I've worked with a lot of great military guys here, and this is the closest I can even resemble war, of just,
Yeah.
you know, the destruction and the helicopters constantly over, and it's surreal.
It is.
And then going to the, you know, you should go just look at it, the memorial wall. I don't know if you've been there yet.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it keeps growing.
Yes, and so it's, you know, when you're here and you're doing a job, the emotion's out of it a little bit, and until you go see the wall for some people, I mean, or when I'm walking around and I get texts from all kinds of people. I mean, from mutual friends that have family that lost somebody, to people that are, you know, I'm praying for you. Thank you, Jonathan, for doing what you're doing. Thank you this, and you know, that's when it gets me, you know,
Yeah.
or you know, when I left to come here, and I hugged Scarlett, and I said, you know, hey, I'm gonna leave for a little bit, and she said, you know, where are you going? I said, well, you saw that the flood is happening, and so I'm gonna go help those people that need help right now. And she's like, because she knows what I went through, and she goes, you know, a flood like what you were in? And I said, yep, and she just gave me a huge hug and said, I love you.
Oh.
Which was pretty awesome. And then, you know, when I left to leave here Sunday, I texted and I said, you know, I'm coming home, and that's when it got me again. So, yeah,
And you got to go home.
I did, and a lot of people didn't.
That's right.
So I'm blessed. Yeah.
We're blessed that you spoke with us today, and I know everyone that hears your story will be too. No
Yes,
matter what
I hope.
point in life,
Yes.
what they're dealing
Yes.
with.
Yes,
So
for
thank
sure.
you.
Well, thank you for doing this and
Oh,
doing what you do to help spread the word and
Yeah.
the message of faith and
yeah.
humanity.
Get social with us. Follow us on Instagram at Goodtaste TV.